Without further ado, let's get right into our afternoon plenary and welcome Director Mawuli Tabeno, who's the acting director, actually I should say formally until, I don't know, clock's ticking, but of the Human Rights Commission. Director Tabeno.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Donna, for that lovely song and a moment of reflection. Definitely a good reminder for us to take care of each other and our community, but also we need to keep up the fight. And so that's what I'm excited about this session and everything that we're learning today in the summit. So I'm pleased to be with you on the third annual Human Rights Summit. Michelle said, my name is Mawuli Tabeno. I'm the acting director of the Human Rights Commission. We're charged with rooting out discrimination wherever it's found in San Francisco, as well as enforcing our sanctuary city policy. And I'm here to introduce our keynote speaker for the afternoon, City Attorney David Chiu. The City Attorney David Chiu has taken decisive action to protect civil rights and defend our sanctuary city policies and values. Among his notable achievements is suing the Trump administration to block federal overreach when it comes to immigration enforcement, holding companies accountable for unsafe, gun and e-cigarette practices, and targeting slumlords to safeguard tenants and preserve affordable housing. His leadership as city attorney has been based in strong moral and San Francisco values, from advancing reproductive justice, environmental accountability, and consumer safety. David Chiu has made our city's human rights values central to his legal strategy. And please welcome me in join me in a round of applause in welcoming our City Attorney David Chiu.
Good afternoon, everybody. Happy Pride. All right. I am so honored to be invited to be part of this summit, and I think we all love the theme of this year's SF Pride celebration, which is Queer Joy is Resistance. The theme has two components. First, the idea of joy, and I think it's important for us to celebrate the progress that we have made. But of course, part of this theme is around resistance, how we recommit ourselves to the fight that we still have. And I want to spend a few minutes to talk about both. So celebration. I am so proud that San Francisco is the capital, the social, political, cultural capital of our LGBTQ community in America, right here, everybody. Now, we have always been a beacon of hope and welcoming to the rest of the world. Our region here in the Bay, we have attracted the highest percentage of LGBT folks anywhere in the country. Our city is not just the hometown of Harvey Milk. We are the first city to declare ourselves a sanctuary city for transgender, gender nonconforming, and intersex communities. We are the home for the first transgender cultural district in the entire world. We are special. And I want to talk for a moment about how we got here, the progress, because I can tell you, as we all know, we as a community have had to come a long way. I'm going to out myself as a straight person here. When I was growing up, I first learned about the existence of LGBT folks when I was in school, through the all too frequent anti-gay slurs that I heard on a regular basis in elementary school, middle school, high school, going into college. In my first job as a lawyer working on Capitol Hill, I watched in disbelief as the United States Senate debated the so-called Defense of Marriage Act. As straight senators whose personal lives were horrific examples of morality, hypocritically told America what a marriage ought to look like. And I have to tell you, that was one of those moments when I thought I needed to move to a city like San Francisco. As a young city attorney, as a young civil rights attorney here, I remember debates within our local bar associations about whether LGBTQ folks should have equal rights. After a few of us founded API Equality, I remember the controversy as we worked to pass the first equality resolution at the California Democratic Party. The LGBTQ community has come a long way. When I was in the legislature working alongside our LGBT legislators, I worked with a lot of folks who were present at this summit to pass many laws to protect our LGBTQ communities, to ensure that all families, regardless of orientation, are fully recognized under our state parental and assisted reproduction laws, to require agencies to collect data, voluntary data on sexual orientation and gender identity, so we can address disparities when it comes to healthcare and education, human services and employment, to address bullying in the classroom, to protect the rights of transgender students to student records that reflect their identity, to ensure the confidentiality for patients receiving gender-affirming care, to address the skyrocketing price of pharmaceutical drugs for those living with HIV and AIDS. We have come a long way. Now, that being said, you don't need me to tell you that our work is not done. Even before the nightmare of this year, before the November elections, when we knew that so many members of our LGBTQ community continue to lack access to jobs and housing, education, and services. How so many members of our community continue to experience the intersectional discrimination. People of color, seniors, trans folks, people with disabilities, immigrants, youth. We know so many folks in our LGBTQ communities still face, on a daily basis, basic bigotry, hate, and violence. And I said, this was all before that orange-faced man, our so-called president, reoccupied the White House. Everyone in this room knows that from day one, Donald Trump and his MAGA allies have viciously targeted our LGBTQ community. Multiple executive orders and policies to undo laws that we have fought for years. Attacks on our transgender kids, even literally trying to erase the legacy of Harvey Milk. Now, Trump's anti-LGBTQ agenda is part of a broader agenda, a broader attack on our communities, an attack on our shared values, attacking immigrants, science, public health, data, attacking our Constitution, the rule of law, and our democracy. I want to just take a moment and acknowledge just how hard this week alone has been on LGBTQ kids. The Supreme Court ruling in the Scrimeti case, allowing Tennessee and other states to ban gender-affirming care. The Trump administration announcing this week that it will eliminate the special line for LGBT kids from the 998 National Crisis Hotline, ending its contract with the Trevor Project. Trump telling California that we have 60 days to remove gender identity materials from sex education curriculum, or we will lose millions of dollars in federal grants. And we have 10 days to decide whether transgender athletes will be banned and stripped of awards. This past Sunday, at a drag queen story hour at my church, I was with Sister Roma, I think Sister Roma's out there, and authors of books that are being targeted in a Supreme Court case that is being expected to come down this coming week that would ban LGBT books and stories from public libraries and public schools. Let me make clear. As a parent, I believe every child should be able to lead happy lives with support from adults in our communities. All children should be able to access health care. Kids shouldn't worry about politicians making their lives harder, scapegoating them, putting them at risk. But part of why I'm so proud to be a San Franciscan is in San Francisco, we don't turn our back on LGBT kids. We actually defend them against big bullies. Now, as your city attorney, I want you to know this. My lawyers and I, we wake up every single day thinking about how we can defend our LGBTQ community. Donald Trump is leading a constitutional blitzkrieg. The pace of his attack has been breathtaking, but I'm proud of the pace of our defense. Just to give you a little bit of context, during the first Trump 1.0 era, my office brought 10 lawsuits against the Trump administration. We were on the leading edge of the then resistance. In the first 103 days of this Trump administration, we've had to file 6 lawsuits. That is 8 times the pace. That gives you a sense of all the things that he's trying to do to our community. Donald Trump has targeted our birthright citizens and immigrants who literally could be killed if they were forced back to their home country or the country of their parents where they have no ties. This is why I filed the first lawsuit of any city in our country the day after his inauguration to defend birthright citizenship. And this is why we have sued the Trump administration to protect our sanctuary city. Donald Trump has used gender ideology executive orders to purge healthcare data. He moved to delete 80,000 web pages and data sets from the National Institutes of Health, the Centers for Disease Control, the Food and Drug Administration, Health and Human Services. This is why we sued the Trump administration to protect data that is used by doctors and public health professionals every single day to save lives, particularly LGBTQ lives. Donald Trump has tried to cut funding for AmeriCorps staff in our public schools, staff who are helping at-risk LGBTQ students who are struggling. This is why we sued AmeriCorps. Donald Trump is moving to cut $50 million of funding that we receive from the federal government for homelessness services based on an anti-equity, anti-transgender set of grant conditions at a time when 40% of our homeless youth are LGBT. And this is why we sued the Housing and Urban Development Department. Trump has moved to dismantle federal agencies with massive layoffs, particularly in public health agencies, decisions that will literally kill patients who are struggling with HIV and AIDS. And this is why we have sued his administration over that. But let me tell you a little message of hope. We've brought these 6 lawsuits, and with all 6 of them, we have won in each of them 6 wins in the lower courts. 6 for 6. And we are just getting started. And so I want you to hear it from me as a straight ally and as the head of the San Francisco City Attorney's Office. If they're going to come after you, they're going to have to come through all of us. Now, I just want to end with this. Despite the lies, our LGBTQ community has always been with us since the beginning of human history. And we know that this community will be here forever. Donald Trump can't do anything to deny that, to erase history, to erase you. Our entire LGBTQ community, particularly our trans kids, deserve respect, dignity, and protection from discrimination and violence. And I will say on behalf of San Francisco, our city's reputation, our leadership, our place in our country and our world has never been more important. Harvey Milk told us that we have to give them hope. And I'm here to recruit you and anyone who might be hearing this. We know that Pride Parade started as protests, and we need everyone to stand up and to protest. That means everyone in this room, everyone who's at the summit, everyone in San Francisco, everyone in our country. We need folks to stand up, to speak out. We need folks at rallies, wherever you are. We need people to organize in whatever sector you live in. If you're working at a nonprofit, we thank you for that work and appreciate you continuing the fight. If you're in the private sector, in any industry, we need you to speak out, to keep on fighting. If you're a lawyer, I need to talk to you. We need you representing everyday people and organizations in this fight. If you're a straight ally, we need you to get off the couch, get on the phone, get out to protests, show up at Pride. As the saying goes, As goes San Francisco, so goes our country. As goes our country, we stand up for the world. And again, I just want you to know, as your city attorney, I will always stand with you. I will always stand with our LGBTQ community. We will stand together, we will fight, and we will prevail. Dr. King reminded us that the arc of the moral universe is long, but it does eventually bend toward justice. This time period feels dark, but I know that the light will come. Queer joy is resistance. Happy Pride, brothers and sisters, and to my friends, may the force be with us all. Thank you very much.
That was incredible. Thank you so much, City Attorney David Chu. It's really, really nice to know and to be reassured, really, what San Francisco and San Francisco values are all about. And so our next panel conversation is, I feel for them. Let's just put it that. We opened up the morning and we heard from other activists around the country who talked about the importance of our allies and folks who have the courage to be out there, get into leadership, get into elected, positions. It's the sign of the times, or where things are headed. These folks are really putting themselves out there. And so I'd like to welcome to the stage, we have Board of Supervisor of San Francisco here with us, Rafael Mandelman. We have Commissioner in Alameda, Khilynn Fowler.
Hello.
And Melissa Hernandez, who is the co-president of the Harvey Milk Democratic Club. And just a surprise, sorry about that, forgot to send the memo. This panel was supposed to be moderated by Evan Lowe, who's a former assembly member here in California, but who is also now leading Victory Fund, a national organization that's focused on LGBTQIA+ in politics. So he couldn't be here today, and he got pulled into a closed session. You get this magnificent person, Michelle Meow, who will moderate this conversation for you. Okay, we'll jump right into it. I'm finding my words. It's been a word salad, it's been incredible. It's an emotional day, but hearing from all of our speakers, our activists, and advocates, I'm just gonna go straight into it. It's a big, big question. What is your world like right now as an LGBTQIA+ elected leader or somebody in politics? I guess we're gonna pick on Supervisor Mandelman and have you go first.
Good choice. My world right now is, I'm tired, everybody. I was up till like 3:30 in the morning doing the city budget, and then we foolishly chose to do a couple of hearings on things that are pretty important to me, behavioral health related, at the Board of Supervisors this morning. So my brain is mush, but that's how things are for me. I think as taking a step back from my current wooziness, it's been quite an insane 6 months now, and I think, like everybody else, I check the news each morning, and there's usually something really terrible or awful or some horrible thing being done, and plainly the folks who have power nationally are actually intentionally trolling us and stirring us up or making us feel denigrated, or it feels very directed, and it's sort of like one of the things I've been saying is the worst people from middle school have each been given a federal agency to run, and that's sort of that kind of bad feeling you were going to get beaten up or thrown against your locker is kind of oh, okay, that's everybody in, in power in the federal government right now. And at the same time, at the same time, should I do this? Okay. And at the same time, well, that's not exactly.
We're going to shut down, but keep going.
Okay. And at the same time, like, there's work that needs to get done. The San Francisco city budget has to get done. There's organizations in San Francisco doing important work, and there are projects we have to work on. And in some ways, like, Queer Joy is resistance, but actually just getting the stuff we need to get done is resistance too, and not letting them shut us down or dissuade us from doing the work that we have to do that's important for our communities. And I think having this level of dysfunction nationally makes, you know, what we're doing locally and in our communities and our neighborhoods with our friends and family, like, all the more important.
Melissa.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think, like Board President Mandelman, every day it is something new, you know, and I actually made the decision a few years ago to get Wall Street Journal updates pushed to my phone just to see what horrible thing is happening so I can be aware. And lately, I just let them go until I don't have to be at work anymore. You know, I mean, it's like every single day, especially, you know, as a queer person, as someone who's the daughter of immigrants, literally an anchor baby, I'm just like, okay, well, it looks like today they're targeting my family. And, you know, today or tomorrow, they're going to target my chosen family. It is just really, really tough. Really, really dark. And I think it has been a lot harder to keep up the faith, even though I know it's very important to do that, especially in these moments when we see what feels like not as much resistance as the first Trump administration. So I've been, you know, doing what I can to poke the bear and try to, like, get folks to, like, rally and really show up. So it has been tough, but, you know, I'm trying really hard this Pride to remember that we are all together, and that even just showing up and being in spaces like these and celebrating openly is still really, really meaningful, and not everyone in the rest of the country even probably has that luxury. So I've been trying to be mindful as well.
I share your angry baby description. Angry babies out there? Angry babies? Yes? Khilynn, this is interesting because you jumped into politics in a very interesting time. Well, we're talking about it being a very scary, chaotic time. So we'd like to hear from you. I mean, why?
Great question. Why? It's my obligation. It's my obligation not only as an African American, but it's my obligation being an African American woman of trans experience. A lot of times decisions are being made on our behalf, and we're not in the room. A lot of times tests are being given, and we aren't the ones who are administrating the test. How I feel in this political climate, I feel everything, because everything is literally mounting up against us. You have the fact that I'm Black. Then you have the fact that I'm a trans woman. And so those two ingredients are meant to be beautiful, but they are being taken out of our recipe of life. They're being taken out of, they're trying to be taking our part of this tapestry that makes the world warm, that we are supposed to create this blanket for. I feel everything, but I can't not afford to get weak. I can't afford to sit with my mouth closed. I can't afford to say, hey, that doesn't apply to me, or I have this passable privilege. I have to get up every day and face the music. And when people ask me, how are you doing, Khilynn? I always tell them I am doing well on purpose. Because if I don't do well on purpose, then I would fail my community.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Yeah. I'm going to go back to something Melissa said, which is, purposely poking the bear. I think that what that leads to is, we are trying to address the climate where we're at, but at the same time, respond in a way where we are bringing our communities together. So how are you responding to all of this, politically, though? So when you say poke the bear, what does that mean? When we're talking about winning campaigns or mounting campaigns, which is part of the whole political climate, what are you doing that might be different now than before? So this is kind of an interesting thing. Board president, Mandelman, I know San Francisco is unique, but also it is an interesting time. Are you doing anything different?
Yeah, I think so. The current moment calls for lots of things that, last year didn't. So one, we have a lot of people in San Francisco feeling threatened and vulnerable and looking to their local government to, at least express solidarity and ideally do something more than that. And so, I think there have been multiple rallies and resolutions at the board and efforts to find funding for in a very tough budget environment, but try to support some of the organizations that are doing work in immigrant communities and with vulnerable folks, the trans folks. So I think there's an effort to show solidarity and provide resources where we can. I think another thing that we are doing that was not necessarily part of last year is calling out the abnormal and awful, right? Yes. So not just when Amos Brown, former supervisor, whose mentor was Medgar Evers, showed up at a Board of Supervisors meeting and was very upset that Medgar Evers had been scrubbed from the Library of Congress website. And the Board of Supervisors felt like we needed to condemn that. And sometimes it's just a matter of noting what is wrong and saying this is not okay and putting that out there. How much that actually does to change the larger dynamic, unclear. And how much to respond to bullies and trolls, unclear. But sometimes you do just need to sort of say this is not right, it's not okay, and we're all going to agree that what's going on here is not what we want to see.
I think for us, it's a little bit of a mixture of things. So we obviously see our advocacy as not just against the Trump administration, but also for our community in different ways. So as far as Trump, we have been trying really hard to give people a space to come together. We've taken contingents to a lot of the marches as well. We have engaged in, calling, Congress to do this or that. We have a rapid response group for folks who want to be a little bit more out there for our community, particularly as it comes to immigrant community when people need bodies there to stand in the way of fascist kidnapping our community.
So you're talking about ICE.
Yes.
Yeah, we should be real, especially for the folks who are joining us live on the stream. That rapid response, and I wanted to make sure people understood that, right? That is a service that we have here in the Bay Area to support families, undocumented families, or any families that are being affected by ICE.
Correct, yes. And so we have been passing along information about that. We did a Know Your Rights training at our last general meeting just because it's really important, even though people's rights are being violated, that people understand what their options are, and they can be smarter when they're out at protests. And so we do some of that. The other thing that I think our club does is just, engage locally. We, are reaching out to the Board of Supervisors, the mayor, and other local officials when we need their help. And so, like, for example, one thing we're doing now is supporting the removal of masks from any police officers that Senator Wiener has introduced, which is really exciting and good. We're also, supporting efforts to make sure that things in the budget that our community need get funded. And, obviously that's a lot of that fight has already happened, but there's obviously still space there. So we'll continue to do that. I think as far as what's different from before, I think it's just a matter of just how many things we're holding at the same time and trying to do as much as we can, as well as we can. And so, just trying to make sure our members know where they can plug in so that when they feel like they can step in, they can.
Ken?
The other part of me is being a community relations manager here in San Francisco at San Francisco Community Health Center. Thank you. You're one of my favorite places. But I created first of all, we're dealing with an incompetent administration that does not really know the importance of community health. Because they're taking away funding specifically for trans. And we're not, we're an organization that provide essential health care for all. And that's problematic when we talk about our HIV positive population, when we talk about our mental health population here, our unhoused population here. Our job is to cater to them and to make sure that they have the essential needs that they need so that they can become more productive citizens of society. And now that this administration has taken funds away from us, we have to be very, 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 very creative. First of all, the trans community is terrified. And so it's already an extra job trying to get them out and to bring them into care, to usher them into care. Because everything is tied with stigma with us. And so I tell people all the time, if you want the trans community to go back into hiding, take something away from them that's helping them survive. And this is what this administration has done. They've taken away essential needs for us to provide to our community. So we're having to be very creative to retain that population. Is it hard? Absolutely. It is like nonprofit organizations, especially the ones provide essential resources for communities to make our community better. We're like theme parks. And so at this moment, they're taking away our ride. So what's the use of going to a theme park? And that's the notion that our community have, and that's very disheartening. I created a program called the She Boutique. Some people might know it, and it's very popular now. I had no idea that was going to go that far. But at San Francisco Community Health Center, at the peak of the pandemic, that was already a scary moment for us, especially when we're trying to connect trans women into healthcare. But where it marries fashion and healthcare, because we all know good healthcare never goes out of style, right? And that was endorsed by the CDC. And so right now the CDC, I feel, this is just my take on it, I feel that the CDC is being forced to take away funding from us to provide that essential health care. And that was a creative idea that I thought to, connect our trans women into healthcare. Now, the clothing and the fashion and the makeup, that's the incentive. My goal was to connect them to care, whether that was mental health care or whether that was providing primary care for them. But right now, we're just overboard with being creative. And it's a mind juggle for everybody that's in the nonprofit world, and my heart goes out to them. But words of encouragement, like, we can't give up. You know, we're on the front line. Sometimes nonprofits are the entryway to healthcare for a lot of mental health issues, and so that's very disheartening. I also have a problem with saying no, especially when it's trying to transform a young girl or a young man into who they think or who they should be, who they feel like they should be. So yeah, it's just our creative minds are in overload right now, and that's the difference, because we went from administration for giving us an opportunity, and then the next administration is taking away that opportunity. So yeah, it's like a theme park with no rides.
Oh.
Yeah, definitely.
No ride, no operator.
No, nothing.
I mean, yeah.
Just the clowns.
Just the clown.
Oh my gosh, great point.
Just the clown.
I love how we just did that.
Yeah.
By the way, I'm going to open it up to the audience for your questions to our panel in just a minute or two. And so we'll have a mic going around. I think before we get to the audience question, I mean, for me, listen, they're doing this really fast, though, ripping that carpet from underneath us and taking away so much from communities. I mean, I think San Francisco is under attack from this federal administration. They do whatever they can. A city like San Francisco, a state like California. And so your jobs are, as you had just described, a lot more intense, a lot harder. It's still not taking away from your joy, and I love that. Thank you so much for that courage.
Absolutely.
But let's be real, though. The more they take away, the less we have. They're putting us into this, what feels like a fishbowl, and we're all trying to breathe that same oxygen, and less and less of it is right in that fishbowl. And so if you get what I'm trying to say, I mean, how do we continue this work, though, and keep people civically engaged? I mean, is it we need more people to join us in this movement? We're seeing, right, the protests are growing and growing and growing and growing. These are the folks we need to keep calling in. How are we finding, the ways to work around all the stuff that they're taking away from us? Really big, hard question. I know, I get it, but whatever you can offer us will be so appreciated. We appreciate it.
I'll start there.
Yeah.
Because my good friend is sitting on my panel with me. I always tell people, being a trans woman, especially being a trans woman of color, I know what we need. I know the marginalized voices that are being shut. I know the unvoiced that want to voice an opinion. They can't, or they don't have the courage to. And this is for all the allies out there. Continue to put qualified community trans leaders in the room. I don't need you to do anything for me. I don't need you to, besides listen, I don't need you to do anything for me but put me in the room. Because when I'm in the room, I know what to do. I know what to say. I know how to move, and I know exactly where and who I need to talk to at this appointed time. It is very important that you do not make decisions for our trans community without putting trans people at the table. That's important. And so I tell all my political friends, whether you are a supervisor, whether you are a mayor, do not forget to put us in, especially trans women. Don't forget to put us in the room. We don't need you to do anything but put us in the room.
I'm very glad I put you in the room and on the stage.
I mean, I think one thing that feels really important in this moment, and maybe I'll just share a quick little anecdote. Just a couple of weeks ago, I was at an amazing rally put together by Labor in support of a Labor leader who had been arrested by ICE in Los Angeles. And there was something that was said during that rally that I think really resonated with me and has really helped me keep going in these really difficult times. And that was that, like, fear creates an opportunity for us to be brave. And I think in any way that you can be brave every single day, you should absolutely take that opportunity. So for us, it can be, the fear of letting our members down, it's like, or the fear of losing services in our community. It gives us an opportunity to show up, to build up some of the connections that we need to build. And at the end of the day, when we are out there building these connections and fighting alongside each other instead of with each other, I do think it creates an opportunity for us to really show what people power resistance looks like. And with people like Trump and people who don't necessarily care about the rule of law, who are doing whatever they can, regardless of what a piece of paper says. The one thing that can actually stop them is a population that will not back down when they keep trying to push us over. And I think when we're afraid and we are, bonded together, that's when we're the strongest.
I want to add to that too before you say something. I don't want our government officials to. I don't want our government. No, seriously, I don't want our government officials to forget that our trans community are voting citizens. I am in charge of, and I was so thrilled to work on the Biden-Harris administration, but I was in. I would say I partake in making sure that 250,000 trans women globally, around the United States, not globally, but around the United States, make sure they was registered to vote. And to people that might seem like a small number, but we're such a small population, and that was huge. So don't forget that we are registered voters.
Let's go, 2026 midterms.
Right.
Oh, the current administration might be shocked that there are folks that rally around the LGBTQIA plus community, specifically trans women leading this, that could vote them out.
Right.
They can.
Right.
They can.
Absolutely.
Board President.
I love that quote about, fear is an opportunity to be brave. These are dark times. It's easy to get overwhelmed by it. And I think, one of the things I love about your theme for the year, Queer Joy as Resistance, is I do think that there's something about having fun and being funny and enjoying yourself that makes resistance more powerful.
Right.
If resistance is just about, and I actually think this is a pretty queer thing, that if resistance is just all force and, pushing back, we'll get overwhelmed. We'll overwhelm ourselves. We'll be crushed by it. The power, I think, of queer people is in being able to do that, and especially of trans women, is being able to do that in a way that is also fabulous. So you are resisting the bully, but you're also making fun of the bully. The bully is a clown. So he gets more infuriated, and you are sort of dancing circles around him. And I think that's what we, as a community, that can be kind of our contribution to the effort. We can be fun and entertaining and attractive to others, so resistance looks like fun, and also support each other so that we don't get so worn down by how bad all of this is. So I think there's something. I love the theme, and I think there's something about being joyful and joyfully queer. That the trouble we have nationally, this is sort of like patriarchy on steroids, right? It's like retroactive, it's like regressive patriarchy. Patriarchy has decided that it loves its worst impulses and is going to embrace them and rush toward that. And what's the most threatening thing to that? It's queerness, and especially queer joy.
Perfect. Yes. Question from the audience. Got one right here.
I wanted to ask, what sort of encouragement have you received as queer people? How have you found community in public office with people who you deem allies, and how have the people around you encouraged you to make a difference? I also wonder if anyone is queer and interested in politics, but coming to terms with their queer identity. What would you say to them?
Whoever has a burning desire to answer that. But we'll keep it to one of you, just because time's ticking.
I mean, I can take the first one of like the support that I've received. Like, I have been so blessed to be in this city with such a rich queer history and all of these, folks who have done political work. The fact that we have a generation of long-term survivors, of people who made it, that did not know that they would be alive today and still are. And that I can learn from those people and be supported by those people, and then to see younger, like the sort of the intergenerational power, to see younger people doing all the amazing things they're doing. I just feel like I feel completely buoyed by San Francisco's queer community.
Anything to add?
Yeah. I'm a transplant from Alabama. And so I've been here for 9 years. And when I say that San Francisco has been this platform that has allowed me to be that voice, and so I'm grateful for that. That's number 0, because we don't forget about 0. Number 1, just having real allyship with people who not only trust my vision, but my community that trusts my vision. And they have been like my piece of joy because I'm able to encourage them, but moreover, they're able to see me not give up on them. And so that within itself brings me joy and makes me want to get up and cuss this administrator out another day. And for a person of trans experience or LGBT or queer experience wanting to get in politics, get involved. I didn't have a roadmap. I just had people with the knowledge. I had people that put me in the room. But I knew I had a voice, and I knew what my community needed. Just get in there. It's no rules. Now, there are rules when you get into politics, because there's a lot of stuff that I had to cut out, but it's for the better. It builds character. But keep going and just go. Get involved.
Another question? All right, I'll keep going because we have 5-6 minutes left, and I have a lot of questions.
I think we have
listen.
one question back there.
Oh, okay, yes, no, you before me for sure. Your question.
Juicy.
Oh, hi. Michael Wynn here. Also, Juicy Lou, drag queen. Yay. I'm curious, my question is, maybe someone could speak to sort of their intersectional identities and how they use that in their politics generally. And I know that's a big question.
I guess I can start. I think for me, intersectional identity, it goes many routes, right? Like I'm, as I mentioned, an anchor baby. Obviously, I have a lot of privilege being in a city like San Francisco as a queer woman. But I also, see other parts of my identity, like being raised by working class parents and, family that's still extremely working class, living in a rent-controlled apartment. All of those things are really important. And I think about all of those things and try to make sure that I am really keeping an eye out for everyone when I'm pushing for things in the club. Obviously, our club is, Democratic club, and we have a lot of room for members to come and raise their issues. And so what we've tried to do to make sure that we're being respectful to everyone's identity and specific needs is to make people feel comfortable that they can come to us and say hey, I have this really specific issue. and I don't know what to do. And we all can like talk about it and figure it out because we're all in it together. We all have something to bring to the table. No one is unqualified to talk about what they need. And so I try to really keep an open mind every time that someone's bringing an issue. It might feel very niche. I might not know the answer, myself, but just making sure to make some space for folks who have different issues than I do. Sometimes you just need that other perspective in the room to point out like a very obvious thing that you're missing.
I'm gonna ask you the last question, and we'll end with this. It's tough out there, and yes, queer resistance is joy. Queer joy is resistance, right? But at the same time, you're elected leaders. You're in politics. There's a lot of scary things happening, like elected leaders getting arrested for standing in their way, but standing up for our rights. Okay, I'm just gonna leave you with that example. Now, you got a job to do because our hope is that in a couple of years or so, 3 years, this nightmare is over. How do we get there? There's one thing you can offer us, all of us here who are tuning in and who will see this eventually, that we can be doing in your journey of this work, that hopefully the nightmare is over, we're liberated once again, we're moving for more protections, and we're moving towards progress and not backwards. Board President?
Can I let the other two
Yeah.
answer that question?
Okay.
And can I argue with your question?
Yeah.
The argument I'm going to have with your question is that I don't think my best case scenario is that it's over. No. Because I think it doesn't end. I think history's like this, and you win, and then you get pushed back, and it's sort of this constant. Like, I think the way to understand this moment is not that we are in a deviation from a march toward an inevitable march towards some good outcome, but that things get better or worse, and that we have some ability to impact that trajectory and to make things less bad or better depending on where we are. But I think it's wrong to think about this as like, as it would have been in 2020, right? That, if we can just get through this, then it'll be good. Well, it might be kind of good, but it won't be good for everybody, and there'll still be a ton of people who are in a terrible state, and then something else bad will happen, and that's kind of life. And I don't think that's actually a terribly dark realization that, we're not going to get to utopia. We just try to make things better for each other. And I don't know if that helps, but I do think it's like, I think we shouldn't, this is a life, your obligation as a human being to try to make things better doesn't end at a particular time. It's like as much as you can do for as long as you can.
I think I 100% agree with everything you've just said. I think it's important not to think about it as, here's where we start and here's where this ends, because the battle or the journey toward making sure that all of our people can have dignified, beautiful lives, it didn't start with Trump, and it's not going to end there either. So I think it's really important for us not to take our eye off the ball. And I think as far as advice for folks, definitely don't give up. Take a break when you need it so that you can come back later and, help someone else take a break without making things, without leaving a gap there. I think that's super important. But I think probably most of all is just stay alert now and 10 years from now until we can really feel like we're somewhere where we feel like the next generation can take on things. And I will just say on that, I have been so inspired by all of the people who have been out there for decades, being right next to us out on the streets demanding justice, as well as children, and just, it's been really nice. And I think it really speaks to the idea of you can't just say I finished this battle and now I'm out. Like, you just have to keep going. You have to keep going because there's always someone who still needs something, and things that we can do to make things better. So I hope to see everyone out there with us for many years to come, not just the Trump years.
Yeah, that was hard to come back.
No, Khilynn, you're gonna take us home and mic drop it.
Okay, I'm good at that. On top of what President Supervisor Mandelman said, and my other panelist, friend, sister, this is a lesson. We're all in the classroom. And this is going to set us up for what's to come. Be ye good, bad, ugly, or gorgeous like myself. Pay attention. This is going to teach us how to not only unify in numbers. This particular moment is going to teach us how to build character. This is going to teach us a little bit of emotional intelligence. This is going to teach us when to fight, how to fight. And this is going to give us a head start on what we need to know and what we need to do in the future. This is our lesson. If you've never been in a college classroom and preparing for a thesis, this is the time. Pay attention. And don't get tired. I tell my mother my 82-year-old mother calls me every day to check on my mental health because she knows that it's going to be ugly. When I was transitioning, my mother didn't tell me, or she didn't give me instructions. She gave me instructions on how to be a woman, on what womanhood is, what it does, what it feels like. But she really didn't know how to mother really a transgender girl. And she told me, you'll figure it out, but I'm going to make sure that you're mentally prepared. And so my mother always makes sure that I'm mentally prepared. I am hydrated, and I am ready to continue the fight and to sit in this classroom and learn everything that I need to learn, because we have a generation behind us that are watching us and that are paying attention on how we move, when we move, and who we move with. And I want to be the leader to move us together.
Let's give a huge round of applause for our panelists, our elected leaders, our organizers, all the folks who have the courage to be in politics. And just remember, yes, support campaigns, get involved in politics, run if you can, run in office, and all of you do what we need to do to keep this movement going. Our next panel is going to focus on the intersection of trans, immigration, and disability. Again, there's refreshment out there if you need. I'm going to get off the panel. Thank you so much, Board President Rafael Mandelman, Melissa Hernandez of the Harvey Milk Democratic Club, and Commissioner Khilynn Fowler.